Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Fascism. The word comes from the Latin word for this. When you bundle them together, they become very strong. And when a dictator convinces an entire nation to march together in lockstep, they feel strong too. And in fascism, an axe symbolizes that it's unity with discipline.
In 2020, America suffered the worst voter fraud and election theft in history.
In 1918, World War I ended.
Germans were convinced their own leaders had sold them out. They called it the stab in the back.
There exist strong and unanswered questions about statistically impossible election results.
Germans had no faith in their government.
The only way they can beat it, they cheat. And I'm afraid the election's going to be rigged, I have to be honest. To rig the election at the polling booths.
It's largely a rigged system. When people vote for Republicans, the entire ticket switches over to Democrats.
Common sense would tell you that it's massive manipulation can take place. Massive. With ridiculous bullshit. Fraudulent ballots.
Unanswered questions about video of boxes of votes being pulled out and counted.
A fringe movement claiming to be the champion of the oppressed emerged.
It might be months, it might be years, it might be decades, but I think when we look back on this election...
And it seemed that Germany's fascist movement was finished before it got off the ground.
We'll see in large part that it was stolen from President Trump.
It's bullshit, okay? Bullshit.
Their leader, Adolf Hitler, wanted to restore Germany's national pride, the National Socialists, or Nazis.
Nazi street gangs violently attacked unwanted outsiders.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
In 1923, in a beer hall like this, Hitler waved his pistol in the air.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
We're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down.
Of the United States. I think this must have been...
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
What we're really talking about and what we're seeing today, Dana, is the rule of the mob.
We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. Let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Versus the rule of law and the Constitution.
He's told his supporters that this is the opportunity to overturn the election when we know that is simply not going to happen.
He seemed to be encouraging these protesters to get out there on the streets and make their voices heard.
When he was talking about how he wanted to overturn the results of the election.
Very different rules.
These results from the election should be thrown out, that Mike Pence, his vice president, should be a part of that kind of attempted coup up on Capitol Hill.
And then seized extra constitutional power by unlawful means.
Very different rules. That's the way it's got to be. The authority states total.
That is not true.
I'm the only one that matters. Me. We're going to write up papers on this. It's not going to be necessary.
But who told you the president has the total authority?
Enough. Please.
The speaker proclaimed the greatness of Italy and promised them a glorious future.
I will give you everything. I will give you what you've been looking for 30, 40, 50 years. Never before, unheard of, impossible to believe. It's bullshit, okay? Bullshit. We're going to do a lot of great things. What the hell do you have to lose?
Once a rabble-rousing journalist, this charismatic speaker became their leader, Il Duce, Benito Mussolini.
They talked about the mutilated victory that is the equivalent of a German stab in the back.
We had an election that was stolen from us, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election.
While fascists won only a handful of seats, without firing a shot, Mussolini was handed the reins of power, a paramilitary one. Fascism was not just an ideology, but a campaign of physical intimidation. Gangs of armed, black-clad war veterans called squadristi, nicknamed the Black Shirts, wielded violence against their political opponents.
A stack. A military formation. Is Jessica Watkins is a transgender woman, and according to her own account, she received an other-than-honorable discharge when the Army determined her presenting as a female was unacceptable. The conversations suggest advanced planning.
A large number of police officers, as you see on the steps there. All right, we just heard a concussive blast come from there. We've been hearing flashbangs.
You can't take away and subtract what the president said on the Mall that leads to this moment. The two are connected.
And Capitol Police are obviously standing by their ground.
They have unleashed something that they cannot control. I mean, the guy is he's like cancer. He stirred him up. He got this whole thing going. This is as close to a coup attempt as this country has ever seen. That's what you're looking at, folks.
This is sedition. We have been saying this now for weeks. This is sedition. This is attempting to undermine the rule of law through use of force.
These were gangs of, in most cases, veterans of the war who went around the streets beating workers up.
Come inside the building and just steps from where U.S. senators have been debating.
We knew this day was coming.
Mussolini loved big rallies, offering big promises and simple solutions.
President Trump likes to stir the pot.
He whipped his followers into a mass frenzy.
The mob has overtaken the process of trying to certify the Electoral College. Security here at the United States Capitol has failed.
That have breached the Capitol building. They are in the rotunda area, feet away from both chambers.
There are gunshots inside the Capitol.
There's a gun! There's a gun! Hey, he's got a gun! He's got a gun! That sounds like a...
They interrupted his speeches with chants of Duce, Duce, Duce. Leader.
Aveva Cesare, il figlio ed Augusto.
They enter with this imposing chain.
Acting presidential is so easy for me. Bing, bing. I don't want mosquitoes around me. I don't like mosquitoes. Tippy-top shape. We got a this, we got a that. I don't know what I said.
Molti nemici, molto onore. Many enemies, much honor. He certainly had a vision of himself as a man of genius with a capital G.
Putin said Donald Trump is a genius. How dare you call me a genius? How dare you call me a genius? Putin did call me a genius. I'm a very stable genius. I'm an extremely stable genius. I'm a very stable genius.
He truly believed he was a new Roman emperor.
Fascist ideology requires individuals to give everything up to the state.
It was against the law to talk against the fascist party.
He repeated a lie endlessly, and he didn't make it a small lie, he made it a big lie, and he kept hammering it into their heads.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. They can try to steal the election from us. We were winning by a lot, actually, and then our numbers started miraculously getting whittled away in secret. But I went from leading by a lot to losing by a little. Major infractions or outright fraud. This is the most fraudulent thing anybody said. This is a criminal enterprise. I've already decisively won, despite historic election interference.
He also dumbed it down as much as possible, with simple answers for complicated problems.
In 1932, the Nazi Party won only about a third of the seats in Parliament. But Hitler managed to take power, partnering with conventional conservative politicians who figured they could control him. There was a fire in Germany's Parliament building, or Reichstag.
Is an answer to an aspiring dictator's prayer. With this national security emergency, Hitler now had his excuse to crush the communists, silence moderates, and create laws giving him sweeping new powers. Hitler followed a playbook that has inspired autocrats left and right ever since.
Corporations would support the Nazi government of Germany because it was good for their profits.
Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. One people, one empire, one leader.
Nobody knows the system better than me, which is why I alone can fix it.
The Nazis started putting their anti-Semitic ideas into action.
And if it could have happened here, it can happen anywhere in the world.
Germany knows the importance of a well-informed electorate.
He's blaming communists for it. Ultimately, at the end of everything, is the Jewish world conspiracy. So Jews are behind everything that is wrong with the world.
I'm a very intelligent person. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words.
I was first in my class at the Wharton School of Finance.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I have better everything than they have, including this.
Unable to overthrow the government by force, Hitler resolved to take it by political means.
In our efforts to protect the integrity of our very important 2020 election, we don't want them to do mail-in ballots because it's going to lead to total election fraud. So we don't want them to do mail-in ballots. We don't want anyone to do mail-in ballots. You have people that are registered who are dead, who are illegals. If any state does not want to share this information, one has to wonder what they're worried about. People that have died 10 years ago are still voting. Illegal immigrants are voting.